What would you think if the TTC offered a ferry from the suburbs into downtown?
That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I don't really see it. I mean, the GO train's right there, too.
Having a lot of employees and colleagues that travel in, I think it would be an excellent idea. Cut that traffic down a little bit for everyone.
I'm Janella Massa, continuing our city commute series on the waterfront with a question the TTC asked 10 years ago. Could Lake Ontario be the better way? Well, back then they saw an opportunity to use existing ports, Scarborough Bluffs in the east and Humber Bay in the west, to shuttle commuters downtown. We would take about half an hour each way on a ferry. Now, ultimately, it wasn't deemed competitive enough because of the cost and the added commute time for people having to get to those launching points on either of those docks. But with the lakeshore seeing at least 15,000 new condo units in the coming years, the former TTC chair who commissioned the report for those ferries at that time says it may be worth taking a second look.
How the Portlands builds out. So there's a 25-year plan, Waterfront Toronto. As part of that, as they develop it, it may be worth looking at whether there could be a ferry service, buses to it, and streetcars. Can we do something like ferries? You should do that as part of the planning, so at least you're confident when you recommend whatever you have that you've done a thorough analysis.
Now, you may or may not remember, but during his mayoral campaign back in 2014, this was actually one of John Tory's 5 points on his gridlock fighting plan to explore the waterways as a mean of commuting. So we asked him today for an update on that 3-year-old promise.
I will be honest with you in saying that I haven't really had time to address that in the way that I might have intended, because the idea wasn't jocular or humorous in nature, and there were people who sort of laughed at it at the time. I wouldn't rule out looking at it, but I've focused myself for now on getting transit built, on resolving important issues that have been around for a decade, like this bike lane issue. It's still something I think is worthy of consideration. There are other cities that do it. Our climate makes it challenging, but having said all that, I wouldn't rule it out.
The former TTC chair points out that the Inner Harbour doesn't freeze over that often. Their report in 2007 found that the ferries could operate about 90% of the time. Now, a fast ferry service from Toronto to Rochester did operate for a short time in 2004, but it eventually failed because of financial troubles. And back in the 60s, then Mayor Hugh Griggs also proposed a hovercraft to get people in and out of the suburbs to downtown, but those plans never came to fruition. Today, the TTC wouldn't comment on whether or not they would revisit the idea of ferrying people into downtown from the suburbs. And they would not tell us if they would revisit that idea of waterfront transportation.